Well, your New York Knicks are 50-game winners for the first time since 2012-13. It has been a hell of a run. It has been fun. It has been maddening. It has been sad, scary, exciting. You could probably fit any adjective. It has been that. But it's not over. This is something that we expect to keep progressing. And this team has now developed an expectation because of where we are despite all of those adjectives. Let's talk Knicks, baby. Episode 666 of the podcast. Welcome to BD4. Let's go. Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, RJ Carbone. You are listening to BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We also do MMA. Yanks every series, Knicks every game, MMA on occasion. Let's get to it.
Anthony for three. Bang! That one goes down, and the game is tied.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
The Yankees are champions of baseball. Shaking and baking right here on the neophyte.
You guys trying to close the show.
She was doing a great job of feeding.
That is
It's over.
See ya. 3,000 history for the next
Coming up, so Katie, don't you regret not coming to the net? Don't you regret not coming to the net?
Game over. World Series over. Yankees win. The Yankees win.
Shout out to John Sterling. I'm never going to take that part out of this intro. All right, man. Your 2024 New York Knicks have completed their regular season. And despite all of the bullshit, all the stuff early in the season, you go way back to October, late October, you get the RJ Barrett early season hot streak. Look at RJ. He looks like he's turned a corner. Maybe playing in FIBA helped him. He gets those migraines. He goes down. He comes back. He's not looking the same. He's playing very bad basketball. The Knicks, pretty mediocre up until about late December. Mitchell Robinson goes down with the injury. We're all thinking, oh, this is it. Our ceiling is lowered. They needed a jolt. They were playing very middle of the pack ball. And so they make a trade for a guy named OG Anunoby. Knicks fans all around, except for myself, hated this move initially. But then the Knicks go on this big, gigantic run in January. Things are looking up. Things are looking amazing. Everything's clicking. They're peaking at the perfect time. 4.5 minutes left in the Miami Heat game. Julius Randle gets hurt. We find out he's done for a while at the moment. The next day, we find out OG Anunoby is also going to be going down. And so for 2+ months, you're playing without those guys, and it's a slog. The entire thing's a drag. Other guys are going in and out of the rotation for a long time. I'm pretty sure every Knick has missed games. And I went to the worst game of the year. I had tickets that you can see, those tickets right here if you're watching the video edit, to the Dallas Mavericks game in February. And it just happened to be the game where every single Knicks starter did not play. Jalen Brunson wasn't even there. OG, Randall, Mitch, Ihart wasn't even there. I don't know if Dante was there. I don't think he played. I think every Knick I went to during that game, if I can remember, did not play. So it was looking ugly. and they made the Detroit trade, you're thinking, okay, this is going to shake things up again, and this will help us bridge the gap. Immediately after that trade, you go on that little bit of a losing streak. Those guys are not performing. But they keep fighting, and they keep just grinding and getting through, and you look at it, and here we are, as I record this, April 15th, 10 p.m. on a Monday night. The Knicks have 50 wins. They secured the 2 seed. They went 21-15 since the Randall injury. They've gone 6-1 since it was announced that Randall is done for the year. And now they finished the season top 10 in net rating, offense, defense. This team went into yesterday with every single reason to settle and rest their guys and load manage like everybody else in the Eastern Conference did. They had every right to. They earned it. They deserved it. Right? But that's not what they do. This team has they have a resilience under Tom Thibodeau. He's come here and he's established this culture where none of these guys are going to quit, and all they know how to do is one thing. They know how to win. That's all they know how to do. They're going to work their asses off so they can win. Thibs has come here and he's helped establish this work ethic. Guys are just busting their ass for him. They respect him because of the kind of hard-ass coach he is. He's got this team prepared every single game. His preparation is unmatched. You can ask any other coach. They've got this discipline under Tom Thibodeau. Guys know their roles. Guys know what they need to do and what they need not to do and what's going to happen if they do this. They know how to get minutes on this team. They know how not to get minutes on the team. Everybody on this roster, not just in the rotation, everybody on the roster, on the depth chart, has fully bought into this whole thing. There's a unity here. I've always had trouble saying that word. There's this locker room chemistry that is just unmatched with this team. And you see it grow every single day. And it's developed this really, really good, solid group of guys who just want to win. And I'm not saying that Thibs has made these guys this, but he's fed it. They want it more because of that. It's a synergy. It's a synergy. So like anybody who's upset at the Knicks for wanting to win yesterday's game and trying their asses off to try and get that 2 seed, anybody upset at that, like you're asking the Knicks to go away from the only thing they know. You're asking a tiger to change its stripes. That's their identity. They can't change that about them. I can't change the fact that I'm a male. Well, I guess today we can. I can't, you know what I mean? Like you can't change certain things. The Knicks can't change that. They go out there and they fight 110%. So to ask them to give up, to ask that team to concede, to ask them to bow down to a lesser opponent just so they can avoid the better opponent, that's cowardly. They're not going to cower. Not Tom Thibodeau's Knicks. Now, I understand wanting a preference. Like, yeah, I've got my fears with, these potential matchups. Obviously, you got the history with Miami. It's a mental thing, right? And then Philly. They've got a guy who, when he's right, is a top 1 player in the game. Let's just be fucking blunt. Yeah, I'm not in love with these matchups. But I want to win, man. And I just want this whole thing to continue. I like wins. I've fallen in love with that mentality because of this team. So I'm taking a few days. I'm taking the week to de-stress and appreciate what we have in front of us. Because I've gotten on this mic every single night after every single game, minus we missed about 6 or so. And I've nitpicked and I've analyzed and I've bitched and moaned and I've done all this, analyzing. I want to appreciate this. So I'm wearing my Knicks jerseys, I'm wearing my Knicks shirts, my Knicks hats all week because I'm appreciating where this team is. I came on here at the very beginning of the season and I tried to be my conservative self and just be very tame with my predictions. And I said, I expect this team to be a 6 seed, maybe win 45 or so games. Right? And then after all the injuries started happening, I was like buying into that again. Right? The January Knicks were on pace for 55 wins. All the injuries happened. I'm like, all right, we're probably back down to being a 6 seed. And then towards for a second there, I was kind of thinking maybe this team's actually a play-in team. Yet, again, here we are. Folks, this was a team who was on pace for 55 wins, and then 3/5 of their rotation did not play for 2+ months, and they finished with 50 wins. The number 2 seed in the East. Everyone was like, all right, well, it's gotten to a point where we just need to avoid the play-in. They're the second best team in the conference. They're probably a top 5 team in the NBA. If somebody told you before the season that the number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference is going to win the finals this year, would you be like, what? No, you'd probably be like, yeah, well, they're the number 2 seed. That's not a shocker. Just saying. I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. Not going down that rabbit hole again. But shout out to these Knicks, man. This has been an unbelievable run. Shout out to Tom Thibodeau, and I hope the guy is getting credit today. Because Lord knows when these playoffs start and the Knicks do lose a game or two, because there will be some losses. They're not going to sweep every round. The guy's going to take flack. So I hope that he's getting every bit of credit and praise and everything from Knicks fans and Knicks media and anybody who has paid attention to this team, because he deserves all the credit in the world. Now, there are critics, and there have been critics during this injury bug that the Knicks have had to deal with. Is Thibs' philosophy a concern? Is it his fault that all this is happening? Is this grind out mentality a concern going into a playoff? Because, Thibs is a guy who's absolutely going to raise your team's floor. But the question with him has always been, there's been a limit on the ceiling. Can Tom Thibodeau teams find that next level? Historically, that's not been boding well for Tom Thibodeau teams. At the same time, Tom Thibodeau teams of the past have not always been full of Thibs guys, quote unquote. Fucking Karl Anthony Towns, really? So I think the Knicks did it right by getting Leon and Tom on the same page, which wasn't always the case, right? I mean, you've had a few instances. Fournier, Obi, Cam was kind of the final straw, but now they're on the same page. Now here we are, where Thibs and Leon have perfected this craft. They've developed this synergy, and they've built this roster full of guys who fit the Thibs guy mold. That's why you have this team where they are. Now, will that limit the Knicks in their future chase for another big name? That's a fair question, right? If they go after a superstar talent who plays a lot of offense, doesn't play a ton of defense, is that going to, Donovan Mitchell, for example, not exactly the best fit. We've talked about this before. How does Thibs deal with that, right? Because sometimes you got to bite the bullet when you're a head coach and you're bringing in a superstar in Mitchell. But, like, that's a question for the offseason. We're not even going to get into all that. I just want this to be about Tom Thibodeau, and I want people to really give him the respect that he deserves. He's probably not going to win Coach of the Year. He already has, I think, 2. But he should get consideration, and he should get the proper respect. We'll be right back.
Hey there, thanks for listening in so far. If you enjoy this episode, please give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks so much. You can follow us on social media as well. On Instagram, we're at BD4Pod and at Rob J. Carbone. On X, we're at BD4Pod and at RJCBD4. And on Facebook, we're BD4.
Okay, welcome back to the show, episode 666 of BD4. Yeah, the Knicks did play the Bulls, by the way, yesterday. This is more about, like, what's to come and the Knicks season. But, like, yeah, real briefly, they played the Bulls yesterday afternoon. They won 120-109 in overtime. The Bulls gave it a run, man. The Bulls were trying to play spoiler. They had already locked down the 9 seed at the moment. But, yeah, like, I was watching the Yankees game during this game at the same time, so I wasn't paying too close of attention to it. But the Knicks kind of came out in the first half sleepwalking a little while Chicago was doing the opposite. But the second half was big for the Knicks. You know, Brunson made some big plays down the stretch, of course. The bench making it interesting, too. You know, Deuce McBride had moments. Bojan Bogdanovic was knocking down some huge baskets in the fourth quarter. 6 of his 13 points came in the fourth. Josh Hart has that very bad turnover late in the game, trying to get it to Dante. And then you have the Precious Achiuwa sub, which I liked. He subs in for Isaiah Hartenstein for the overtime period. Hart's on a limit. I think they're trying to be careful with Mitch, too. And plus, Chicago was going very small. So Precious was in, and it worked. He had a big-time overtime period. You know, he had a big putback, getting big stops. He had that late stop on DeMar DeRozan in overtime, the last seconds, where he's on him. He didn't dig, didn't reach. His hands were up. He contests the shot very well, forces the miss, and he avoids the foul. Very good stop there, and that was eventually it. The Knicks, once again, would win 120-109 in overtime against the Bulls. Brunson finishes with 40 points. DeMar DeRozan finishes with 30 points. We can hand out our final game balls of the regular season. And, of course, Jalen Brunson is going to get the first game ball from the starting unit.
Bing bang.
In this one, Jalen Brunson went for 40 points again. 8 rebounds, 7 assists. Shot 47% from the floor. I think it was 14 of 30. 92%, 10 of 11 or 11 of 12 at the free throw line. And on the season, Jalen finishes with a robust 29 points, 4 rebounds, 7 assists on 48% from the floor, 40% from 3, and 85% at the foul line. There's been a lot of talk on, like, Jalen Brunson putting up better numbers than Melo. The numbers are better. You know, it's now you could talk all about the pace of the game has changed, more possessions. It's going to look different. But this is one of the best seasons in Knicks history. Personally, it's, if not the best season I've seen from a Knick, it's right under Carmelo Anthony's 2013. Just because Jalen Brunson is doing this. Well, I guess Melo was too. You know, Melo didn't exactly have a 1B. Jalen Brunson is doing this also without a 1B. His 1B went down in January. And he's also doing it without a starting center. You know, you have 2 starting centers, really. But Jalen Brunson did this with no Julius Randle, with no Mitchell Robinson, and without his starting wing in Anunoby for, again, over 2 months. He's had to produce offense all by himself through those pick and rolls, and he's had to bust his ass on the ball. He's had to sprint and condition himself off the ball to get open. He's playing physical. He's down in the low paint. He's getting beat up, no calls, taking charges on the other end. And he's doing all this, 35 to 40 minutes a night, sometimes more. He's played 77 games this year. And despite all of that, Jalen Brunson, for a second consecutive season with the Knicks, is his hottest in the dog days of the regular season. I mean, he dropped 61 2 weeks ago. He just went on a string of games where he's dropping 35 to 45 points. Like, it's been an unbelievable run all year for Jalen. When the Knicks said in the offseason that they thought he had another level, I thought that was just the normal front office stuff, just complimenting their players, and maybe he did, but it was like a smaller step. The dude went from a very good all-star player to an undoubtedly a superstar 1A player. And that's just unbelievable that I'm sitting here saying that, because I called this guy Walmart Raymond Felton when the Knicks signed him. And I feel so pathetic for that. Did not think this is what we had. And now we have it, and Jalen Brunson is probably going to get paid before his contract ends at the end of next season. He's probably going to get this payday in the summer. So he deserves every penny. And I know he's going to perform when it matters in the playoffs this year again. So, Jalen Brunson with his 36th game ball of the season here. See if I can pull it up. Here we go. Finishes the year with 36 game balls, the most by far on the Knicks. And, we're going to do the same thing in the playoffs. We're going to hand out game balls, the same system. But props to Jalen Brunson against the Bulls last night, another 40 points. Let's go to the bench. Precious Achiuwa yesterday. 5 rebounds, 4 points, 2 assists, a block, 19 minutes played. He was good, again, down the stretch, did his thing. Precious was solid for this Knicks team, man. He comes here with OG Anunoby. Nobody really pays mind. He gets off to a terrible start. No one really likes him. And then he has the run that he did in February. He really just spared the Knicks a ton. This was during a time when Mitchell Robinson was still down, when Isaiah Hartenstein was kind of in the peak of that Achilles problem. The Knicks needed every bit of Precious Achiuwa, and he gave them everything he had. Was it always pretty? No. The offense was brutal when you had to play Precious out there, along with Josh Hart, and then Jericho got some minutes with him. But they got by. They played defense. They got wins, and that was because Precious Achiuwa did a more than serviceable job filling in the month of February. Just awesome. And I keep using him in past tense because I don't know that he's going to get many minutes in the playoffs, if at all. He'll maybe get some situational spots, But again, I don't love the idea of extended Precious minutes in a postseason matchup because that means he'll be playing 4, which decimates the offense because you're playing him next to a 5, who the Knicks don't have a spacing 5, and then he's also going to be in a lineup with Josh Hart at wing. So I would try to limit the Precious minutes. Unless Mitchell Robinson maybe can't go for a game, and then Precious is playing 5. But even then, if you're playing a team with size, like Philly or Miami, you don't want that. But credit to Precious and credit to Tom Thibodeau, right? We joke about, I think I've said this before, give a mouse a cookie, give Thibs a big, and he's going to make him into a serviceable center. So he does this all the time. He's the big man whisperer. Is Tom Thibodeau. So credit to him and Precious Achiuwa, man. He held his own, and I don't know what his future holds. He's going to be a restricted free agent, so the Knicks can match whatever offer he is given. He might command, let's say, $9 million a year on some kind of $3 or $4 million 4-year deal. But the Knicks are in another situation where they're trying to pay iHeart. They don't want to lose iHeart. They might lose him. And that's a whole situation they have to figure out. Do you want to invest into 2 centers in iHeart and Mitch? Well, then you certainly can't bring back Precious for $9-10 million. So it's a whole thing, but Precious Achua, want to just give him props for getting the game ball. And listen, for a guy who came here late January, the fact that he has, how many does he have? 12? He finished his Knicks tenure with 12 game balls despite coming here late January and barely playing at first. Pretty fucking impressive. So good for him. Let's talk more when we return from our second break here. Episode 666. Be right back.
If you're interested in our website, just go to www.bd4blog.com. You can subscribe to our blog on there right on the front page. Just like on the podcast, we cover Yankees, Knicks, and MMA. Also on our website are the links to the different platforms for the podcast. Thanks so much.
Studio 69 Productions is a podcast production agency created by Leo Rodriguez to allow content creators to market their podcast. It's an online platform that will market your podcast or any other project that you're working on. Get in touch with Leo Rodriguez from Studio 69 Productions. You can find Studio 69 Productions on Instagram at Studio69NJ. Studio 69 Productions, where dreams are heard and born. Okay, damn. Welcome back to the show, episode 666 of the podcast. The Knicks defeat the Bulls 120 and 119 yesterday in overtime. Who cares? They got their 50th win. Now all we do is focus on Saturday. And Saturday is going to be interesting. There are a lot of things that I have concerns about. There are a lot of things I'm confident in. And one of the things I think I'm most confident in is this Knicks offense, which I don't know if that sounds different or odd to some of you because they're known for their, play hard, bust their ass defensive mentality. But they're all quietly this season, Tom Thibodeau's biggest development has been showing the world that he's not just this defensive minded coach, that he has a playbook, that he has offense. And I think the biggest teller to that is right after Julius Randle goes down, the Knicks, everyone's trying to find out, my God, how are they going to produce any offense now? Just Tom Thibodeau with an amazing pivot to a different offense that's producing just as much. Brunson lost his other creator. He lost his 1B. He did not have, for the entire rest of the way, Randle's gravity on the post, where Randle would draw 2, Brunson would relocate to the corners, Randle would kick, shoot, or Randle would swing. That wasn't there anymore. So the Knicks had to quickly adopt, and they did. They, just like that, pivoted, and they put more emphasis on Isaiah Hartenstein. They were running through iHeart actions. They used iHeart more as a playmaking hub on the high post at the top of the key. Flashing to the elbow, right? The Knicks would pivot to iHeart on the second side after the initial action. Running offense with Isaiah Hartenstein as a hub has produced so much for the Knicks. Whether it's DHO, back cuts like blind pig, Chicago offense, zoom actions, floppy actions. It's iHeart, and it's guys cutting off ball. Like, you got Hart, who's a good cutter. Dante DiVincenzo has just developed such a great off-ball tendency. He's such a good cutter, and that's something I'm sure he brought from playing under Steve Kerr's system in Golden State. You got Anunoby making these 45 cuts to create spacing. Ihart and Deuce McBride have developed this great chemistry together. Brunson, too. He's getting baskets off ball, coming up and floppy. This system that they've pivoted to, like the Jalen Brunson, Isaiah Hartenstein pick and roll, has just been a Picasso. It's been art. You know, they've perfected this, where if the defense decides to put 2 on the ball, you're playing right into the Knicks' hands because that's their offense. Whether it's a blitz, trap, a hedge, help, it doesn't matter. Brunson is going to hit his outlet, the short roll, turn the corner, and the Knicks being such a high IQ, highly prepared Tom Thibodeau team makes them so effective in this manner. Their quick decision-making makes them so effective. Ihart's quick decision-making. Brunson being as composed and mature. This in-control point guard. You know, and then the spacing and playmaking that you have around this pick and roll makes it so effective. Because you've got OG Anunoby spacing in the corners to take help off the roll. Because you've got Dante DiVincenzo spaced out above the break to take help off the action. One pass over. You have Ihart coming off the slip into space, creating offense in that 4-on-3. You've got Josh Hart doing very similar things in space off of guard screens, off of those doubles. So you combine all of that, and it creates this well-oiled, free-flowing, spaced-out, sometimes 5-out offense, where the Knicks they force the defense into rotation. They draw help, drive, kick. It's an incredibly difficult offense to defend. It's really, really impressive. If the defense, if they're in a drop, Brunson's going to kill you in space with the pull-up, the floater, or he'll reject the screen to take you out of the action. If you blitz, again, he's going to hit Isaiah Hartenstein 4-on-3 in the back line off the short pick and roll. So this is an offense that I'm really excited about. I think it's going to do a lot more than it did last year because of this development and obviously the personnel changes, but it's hard to defend. You know, I think your best case is to vary coverages, maybe get Brunson in isolation, put length on him. That's the best way to slow him down. You know, there are like when Brunson's off the floor, of course, there are concerns. It's tough. Obviously, Alec Burks is a DMP. He's not going to be seeing a minute. But Miles Deuce McBride, he's going to be that guy when Brunson's off the floor, who is expected to run point. And he's obviously, as we've spoken on plenty this season, as great as he's been, he's not the greatest point guard. But it's only going to be 5 to 8 minutes without Brunson. Let's be honest, he's going to play 40-plus in a playoff series. And the Knicks will be staggering. They're going to stagger 2 starters, Josh Hart, Dante. I think when Brunson's off the floor, it's going to be important to put an emphasis on Bojan Bogdanovic. You know, use this part of the trade. Because Bojan is now finding some rhythm. He's found something over the last couple of weeks here. It's at the perfect time. He's a guy where his value, that three-pointer is going to, that three-pointer that he can knock down is going to bring a lot of value. When the Knicks go through those dry spells with Brunson on the bench, Bojan Bogdanovic's ability to knock down a three, to be able to shoot from a lot of spots on the floor, to be able to rise up over the smaller defender in a mismatch, or take you on the post and knock down a 2-point jumper. It's going to be important. And I think they should utilize him, not just in spot ups, but it's important to utilize him in actions where he's coming off staggers, and they like to use him in ghost screens in the pick and pop. Use him in second side actions, empty side pick and roll. Bojan Bogdanovic is going to play a big key role, and I wouldn't be surprised if you have, quote-unquote, the Bojan game, where there's going to be like a game where he doesn't miss from three, and he just goes off. He knocks down like 6 straight in like a quarter. He's going to play a big role. So he's your 8th man, or he's your 8th man. Now, again, it's Miami or Philly at this point. They will be playing in the play-in. I think that's Wednesday. I think the Western Conference is tomorrow. But Miami is obviously a tough matchup for the Knicks. They're going to make the Knicks bust their ass. If there was ever a team to make the Knicks, to test the Knicks, like grind out mentality, like the Heat have that same type of style. They have a whole thing called Heat culture, right? The Knicks defense will be worked hard. Because Miami does a lot of screening. They have a lot of movement. They're going to force you in rotation. They're going to force you to navigate screens. Jimmy Butler is a bear in the playoffs. On the other end, Miami's known for their defense. And they did a nice job on Brunson a few weeks ago when the Knicks did play the Heat and lost. They were doing well on him. They didn't figure out, but they stopped him. They were showing early with the help, overloading help to the strong side of the floor. They brought Highsmith onto Brunson. So they're going to make adjustments. It's not going to, after what he did to the Heat last postseason, despite the Knicks losing that series, they're going to make adjustments so they don't let that happen again. Spoelstra is coaching, guys. So if they are matched up with the Heat, I'm not saying Brunson's not going to have a great series again. He very well could, but it's going to be difficult. My gosh. It's not a matchup that a lot of Knicks fans love just because of the history. It's mental with a lot of us. But the Knicks should be going into that with the I'm not fucking afraid of you mentality. The Knicks should be ready for blood. The Knicks should be the ones playing dirty before those assholes start to play dirty. I want the Knicks making them bleed. I want the Knicks making those guys limp off the floor. I would love nothing for that than for the Knicks to hit first and then hit last. But it could be Philly. You could be seeing the Sixers that walk away with a win in that game, which is obviously another tough matchup for different reasons because they have they have Joel Embiid, who's back. And if he's right, he's, like I said, a top 1 player in the game when he's on. He's a guy where it does not matter how you defend him. It does not matter what coverage you throw at him. Especially if he's hitting that elbow jumper where he kind of fades away and just knocks it down smoothly. And then he takes you to the post, and he's super strong on the post, and you're already without Julius. Mitchell Robinson's already not 100%. Doesn't look great, by the way. Isaiah Hartenstein can kind of be a guy who gets baited into fouls sometimes, and Embiid's a guy who can live at the free throw line. Now, OG Anunoby will be on him a lot. He does a decent job on him. But that means the Knicks are going to have to figure out a way to defend the point of attack. Because that's another, Embiid aside, I worry about this matchup really because the Knicks don't defend the point of attack very well. The Knicks have had issues with smaller guards this season. With OG, post-OG, they've had problems defending smaller guards. OG Anunoby had trouble on Tyrese Maxey the last time the Knicks played the Sixers. The Knicks last night had trouble keeping Kobe White out of the paint, right? So, Dante DiVincenzo is not a great defensive player at the point of attack either. He's a better defender when he is in help, when he's jumping DHO, when he's playing that free safety role. You're gonna notice that losing Quentin Grimes might sting. Because Grimes, remember, he was too small for the 3, right? He struggled defending wings, so Thibs rarely played him in certain matchups and certain lineups. but he was absolutely the next best point of attack defender because he had the size and the quickness and the quick feet. But he's gone, and you replaced him with Bojan Bogdanovic, who's arguably the slowest player in the NBA. So guarding Maxey at the point of attack is going to be tough. Josh Hart might see a lot of minutes on him, but that's not the best matchup. But that's my concern there. Regardless, they have to worry about some of the things we do. The Heat, the Sixers, they're sitting there, you know, their fans are sitting there on podcasts talking about the same exact thing. Or I guess they will be once that game's over, right? Nobody wants to play the Knicks. I've said this before. Nobody's looking at the Knicks and be like, I want that team. This is a team you try to avoid because they are a pain in the fucking ass. I mean, I talk about those teams being a quote-unquote bear. The Knicks are fucking polar bears. The toughest of them. The ones you don't want to run into. They may look like bait because of their name and their history, but you don't want them. But folks, I'm excited. I'm very excited, and I think we'll wrap up this episode here. We might have one more that comes out during the week if I can get to it, but I might take a break, just take the week to de-stress and just enjoy this, and then be back by the playoffs. But thank you. Thank you. We'll head to our final break and get back, and we'll wrap it up with our trivia question when we do.
Thanks for listening to BD4, where there is no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We also do MMA, Yanks every series, Knicks every game, and MMA on occasion.
Okay. Welcome back to the show. Welcome back to episode 666 of BD4. I'm your host, RJ Carbone. I appreciate you tuning in and listening. Maybe you're watching. Let's wrap it up with our trivia question. All right. So our trivia question of the day for this episode, it's only fitting. The Knicks won their 50th game of the season yesterday. How many times in franchise history have they done so? All right. The Knicks won their 50th game of the season yesterday. How many times in franchise history have they done so? I appreciate you all tuning in. That's all we have. Episode 666 is in the books. The Knicks finished their season 50-32. What a fucking year. But plenty more to come. Because this team's got a finals to chase. And hopefully they can chase it and win it. We'll find out. Starts on Saturday, folks. Starts on Saturday. Thank you all. Go Knicks. This episode was brought to you by Anchor.
Hey there! If you stayed the entire way through, we thank you immensely for it. We hope you enjoyed this podcast and that you come back for the next episode real soon. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, download these episodes, and share them with your friends as well. BD4 is a 5-star podcast simply because of you. And we'd like to keep it that way. Have a wonderful day. Go Yankees and go Knicks!